In 1095, a single speech triggered nearly 200 years of war. Armies marched across continents, cities were besieged, and Jerusalem became the center of one of the most violent struggles in history. Not for power, not for wealth, but for belief. This was the beginning of the Crusades. The origins of the Crusades lie in a complex mix of politics, religion, and power. By the late 11th century, the Byzantine Empire was under increasing pressure from Seljuk Turkish forces after the Battle of Manzikert. Large parts of Anatolia had been lost. The Byzantine emperor sought military assistance from Western Europe. At the same time, Jerusalem, a city sacred to Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, was under Muslim control. In 1095, Pope Urban II called for a military expedition at the Council of Clermont. He urged Western Christians to take up arms, promising spiritual reward. The response was immediate and widespread. Thousands joined, including knights, nobles, and ordinary civilians. The movement was not centrally organized. Different groups set out at different times, often without coordination. The early phase included the so-called People's Crusade, which lacked discipline and was largely destroyed before reaching its objective. The main Crusader armies advanced through Byzantine territory and into Anatolia. Despite logistical challenges, they secured key victories, including the Siege of Nicaea and later the Battle of Dorylaeum. These successes allowed them to push deeper into the region. One of the most critical moments came at the Siege of Antioch. The Crusaders besieged the city for months under harsh conditions. Food shortages were severe, morale declined. Eventually, they captured the city. But shortly after, they were themselves besieged by a relieving army. The situation became critical. Despite this, the Crusaders held their position and ultimately broke through. This victory allowed them to continue toward Jerusalem. In 1099, Crusader forces reached Jerusalem. At the Siege of Jerusalem, they launched a full assault on the city. After breaching the walls, control was taken. The aftermath was severe. Large portions of the population were killed. Following this, Crusader states were established in the region, including the Kingdom of Jerusalem. The Crusaders did not return home immediately. They established territories across the Levant. These states relied heavily on fortified castles. Military orders such as the Knights Templar continued support from Europe. However, they remained vulnerable. They were surrounded by larger organized powers. By the 12th century, Muslim forces began to unify. The most significant leader to emerge was Saladin. He consolidated power across Egypt and Syria. His strategy focused on unity and sustained pressure against Crusader territories. In 1187, he faced Crusader forces at the Battle of Hattin. The Crusader army was decisively defeated. This marked a major turning point. Soon after, Jerusalem was recaptured. The loss of Jerusalem triggered further campaigns. European rulers launched additional crusades to regain control. One of the most notable figures was Richard the Lionheart. He led forces during the Third Crusade. Despite military successes, including victories in battle, Jerusalem was not retaken. Instead, agreements were reached allowing access to the city. Over time, the Crusades lost momentum. Internal divisions, logistical challenges, and changing political priorities reduced their effectiveness. Despite continued efforts, the Crusades gradually began to weaken. One of the most significant moments came during the Fourth Crusade. Instead of advancing toward the Holy Land, Crusader forces diverted. In 1204, they attacked and captured Constantinople, a major Christian city. The event caused deep divisions between Eastern and Western Christianity, and it weakened the Byzantine Empire permanently. As time passed, European interest in the Crusades began to shift. Political conflicts within Europe became more important. Funding large-scale expeditions grew increasingly difficult, and coordination between leaders weakened. Meanwhile, Muslim powers remained organized and regionally strong. By the 13th century, control of the region shifted again. The Mamluk Sultanate emerged as a dominant force. They launched sustained campaigns against remaining Crusader strongholds. Unlike earlier fragmented resistance, these campaigns were consistent and strategic. The final phase of the Crusades saw the steady loss of territory. One by one, Crusader-held cities fell. The most significant moment came in 1291, at the Siege of Acre. Acre was the last major Crusader city in the region. After its fall, Crusader presence in the Holy Land effectively ended. Even after the fighting stopped, the effects of the Crusades continued. They reshaped trade routes between Europe and the East. They increased cultural contact, both cooperative and hostile, and they left lasting divisions that would influence future conflicts. The Crusades lasted nearly 2 centuries. They reshaped regions, shifted power, and left a lasting mark on history. But in the end, they were not defined by victory, only by conflict, because for all the battles fought, Jerusalem remained contested, and the war never truly had a winner.